Why do so many supply chains have brilliant strategies on paper but struggle to execute them every day? Discover in Prosa com Bertaglia why great supply chain strategies often fail in execution. Hello, welcome to Prosa with Bertaglia. Today we are talking about the hidden gap between supply chain strategy and the daily operations. Many organizations have invested millions in supply chain transformation, digitalization, planning systems, and advanced analytics. Yet, despite these investments, a significant gap often remains between strategic intentions and the operational reality. Why does this happen? In this episode of Prosa com Bertaglia, we explore the hidden disconnect between supply chain strategy and the daily execution. We discuss organizational silos, decision-making delays, misaligned KPIs, governance challenges, and the capabilities required to transform strategy into measurable business results. Let's reflect on this fascinating and important topic here on Prosa com Bertaglia, where education and business come together to inspire your journey. And I have the privilege to bring it to Prosa com Bertaglia, Dr. Muddassir Ahmed. He is the founder and CEO of Supply Chain Management Dojo, a global supply chain learning platform. With over 19 years of international leadership experience, he specializes in digital transformation, S&OP, artificial intelligence adoption, and the supply chain excellence. A renowned keynote speaker, educator, industry influencer, he helps organizations build world-class capability to achieve measurable business results. What a great big brother with Bertaglia I'm having here today. I'm bringing Dr. Muddassir. Dr. Muddassir, welcome
Howdy,
to Prosa com
Bertaglia.
Bertaglia.
Thank you very much for having me. How are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. I'm in England right now, and in all Europe, it's very hot. It's 35, 37 degrees Celsius, and without air conditioning. So that's the hard part. Otherwise, things are very good.
Oh, great, great. It's really a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Muddassir. So let me remember people to give you a like for Dr. Muddassir, and they also hit the notification bell to keep doing the program with Bertaglia. Dr. Muddassir, I would like to have a bit of a context in a bit of context in the theme that we are going to discuss right now. Could you bring us some ideas around this big subject, which is supply chain?
Yes. So I think supply chain is massive, right? And it has been evolved over last 4 decades, right? So supply chain did not even exist as a term before 2000, right? So it was like materials management or logistics, right? And then from 2000, when we have, marketing involvement, we have commercial involvement, we have, internet, it become the supply chain management as a subject, right? And then from 2020, it become the importance of supply chain as a subject, and the digitalization has merged. And 2010, I would call it, not 2020, to 2010, then supply chain digitalization almost become the enabler for differentiation for businesses to give them competitive advantage. And now in the last 3 years with the AI, we are into really next phase of supply chain evolution, right? So supply chain, people make it complicated. It is complicated. It's not simple, but it's also not common sense. It's a very specialized body of knowledge, and it's complex body of knowledge as well. Because I'm just going to say two things why my company Assume exists. I work for a company called Eat in 12 years. I've done every role from buyer, demand planner, materials manager, supply chain manager, logistic director. And I used to manage 200 people, and 70% of those people were basically did not come from supply chain as an educational background. They come from, you are good in Excel spreadsheet, become a planner. You are good in following SOP. Here you go, you become a warehouse manager, right? You're good in communication and negotiation. You can become a buyer, right? But all of these topics like procurement is a very specialized body of knowledge. You need to know category strategy, commodity strategy, negotiation, supply relationship management. Supply chain has a lot of topics like, for example, planning of inventory management, sales operation planning, trade management, compliance. And if you think about logistics, warehouse design, contract manufacturing, 3PL management, network design, last mile delivery. So is a people think it's common sense. What I'm trying to say is not common sense. You have to have technical skills to be a really good supply chain people. You have to be very good in people skills, and now you have to be very good in technology, right? So great career, great opportunity, and the world is getting more complex. That means AI, no AI. We're all going to have fantastic jobs, and we will contribute to the business we work with, and hopefully make our world better place.
Oh, very good. Very good introduction, indeed. Dr. Muddassir, why do so many companies struggle to translate supply chain strategy into consistent daily execution?
Very, very, very good question, right? So think about strategy as a high level of the business linked with business goals and vision, and then execution is basically implementing it, right? So they don't have a process in between to bridge the two things. So let's differentiate between strategy and execution, right?
Mhm.
So strategy, I think there's a lot of books written. Everybody have a lot of different definitions. The one I like is from the I think Michael Porter have written the strategy is the vision in a certain direction, right? That means you make a certain decision that we want to grow. For example, if you're a Brazil company, you want to say we want to grow in Latin America, right? That means you want to increase your outreach. Then you start thinking about we have to open a warehouse or have different transportation provider, whatever, right? We all start from the high level strategy linked to business strategy. Most businesses actually do not even have that written. They just, it's a wish. We should do it. So first of all, it should be a written document, right? And the strategy would have say, okay, if this the goal, this is the things we want to do or the decision we have made, how they look like in a piece of paper. Then those strategy needs to be converted into tactics, i.e. work streams. For example, let me give you examples. When I was a head of planning logistics from Middle East, we have been asked to grow CIS market, like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and also incorporate India and Pakistan, right? And there are two different markets and two very different supply chain. But that was the growth business strategy from the growth option. But here you go, supply chain, go and do it. But that business strategy needs to be translated into a supply chain strategy, right? So we say, okay, what distributors we have in India, in Afghanistan, Pakistan, right? Who are the main players of our competition in Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan? How we gonna get that tied? So we convert that supply chain strategy into tactics. Let's call it work streams. And those work streams needs to be converted into execution action plan. Okay. Now let's go and find a distributor and have a contract in place and have a safety stock in place and let's have agreement and let's train the distributor on the order cycle. Let's train the distributor of to train how to place an order, right? And that needs to be written because if you do not have that written, you're not going to execute the strategy. So first part of my answer is understand the difference between strategy, which links to the tactics, which links to the execution action plan, which you review. Now, the processes needs to support that. So what processes we have, right? So if you go to my channel, SEM Dojo, we have a podcast called The Supply Chain Show. That's what we talked about. So one of the first video I made for 5 levels of planning, right? So you start from the business strategy, let's call it budgeting. You have to convert that into a business goals, i.e. money goals by product line or product segment or a product group or a business function. The process for do that is sales and operations planning. So you feed that into S&OP, which is a famous process. Okay.
Mhm.
Then S&OP, which needs to convert into a master plan, which needs to convert into a production plan or distribution plan, which needs to convert into the execution on the shop floor, right? And all of them have a different hierarchy. So, for example, business strategy is dollars and money. S&OP is dollars and money, which convert that into quantity, which convert that into basically MOQs or basically quantity of a product to be made. And if you go to the shop floor, it's basically a work order or a purchase order to be executed. And if you don't have that link, you can have a best strategy in the world, you won't be able to execute it, therefore you will not be able to see the business benefit what you expect to see.
Great, great indeed. In your experience, Dr. Muddassir, what are the most common symptoms that reveal a gap between strategy and operations?
I think the follow-up conversation is the answer I gave. So what I want to see the symptoms is they do not have a process of converting the strategy into business goals and execution goals or operational goals, right? So you have to take, for example, we want to be more agile. We have to create agile supply chain. Everybody uses this word. But what does agile supply chain means, right? What does it mean? Explain me in the supply chain language what does agile means, right? So agile means you have to be more responsive and supply to quicker, better, and faster while maintaining your quality or your price. That's what agile means, right? If there's any demand going up or demand going down, it doesn't matter. You should be able to supply, right? But let's convert that into a supply chain KPI. Meanings our if the lead time was 4 weeks, we can do it in 2 weeks. We have to carry maybe less inventory, even with reducing the lead time, right? We are supplying from not 93% on-time delivery, we're supplying at 99% on-time delivery in full, right? Our fill rate is 97%. So these KPIs will actually tell you if you're delivering that strategy or not, in addition to the qualitative feedback from your customer. So the first symptoms I see is they don't have a processes to deploy a strategy, which I mentioned SNOP is being one, master production planning is being second, right? Procurement strategy, diagnostics process, or any right KPIs they don't have in place. They don't have a review process in place. The second thing I see is symptoms is uh, the supply chain leaders are more focused on making them look good and coming up with big words. They come up with a good slide and then just give it to people, go and do it. They don't spend time and money in mentoring and training and coaching people and upskilling people. Because as we all know, there's to execute. So one of the videos I made is four pillars of supply chain strategy. So I have 4 pillars: people, process, system, execution. Everybody focus on execution. I'll come back to that execution, but they have the best ERP system. They have created the best process, but they do not spend money and time in developing people to learn about the processes, to execute the system better, to get the results, right? So how you are training people, how you're doing competency assessment. If you want to, for example, implement digital supply chain tools or AI in supply chain, are you giving people information that, okay, what does LLM do? What is generative AI? What is agentic AI? Both of them are not same. They have a different function. They do different things, right? How are you going to use AI in your business context? How are you going to use AI safely and securely? How are you going to use your enterprise data with AI? All of them, you're just going to assume they're going to know it. No, they're not going to use it. You have to train and mentor people. So second system symptoms I see is there's a very less lot of businesses I've seen they implement like millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars on implementing SAP or Copa or Connexus or Project 44 or sorry, O9, but they spend zero money in mentoring, in training and developing people, which is ridiculous.
Mhm. I agree with you. And the other thing that I would like to explore with you, Professor, is what a kind of role silos play in preventing end-to-end supply chain performance.
That is a very good question as well. So, I think the things are getting better in the supply chain world. They used to, especially there was a mentality in the procurement community of victim mentality, or nobody gives the monkeys to us, or we have to ask our finance guys for everything, and we do not have a seat in the table. I think COVID has given us a favor. COVID has brought in the importance of supply chain function on the C level, right? So we have chief supply chain officer, chief procurement officer, who are reporting to directly to CEOs in most cases, right? So we have a seat on the table. Now, with that said, even though we say we want to play a commercial role or strategic role, the supply chain is still very much operational, right? And there's one I don't think there's supply chain people problem, but it is non-supply chain function problem. They still see supply chain as a support function, not as a business enabler. So that change management needs to happen within throughout the organization. Let me give you one example.
Mhm.
So I was hired by a company in Saudi, a distributor, and they said, because I developed a full end-to-end digital supply chain system when I was in Bridgestone. That means from order collection to order confirmation to inventory visibility to documents, shipment, everything on one platform. It's like Amazon for B2B. So when I started my own business, then Al Talaya was a customer of Bridgestone. So they said, now you're doing consulting. I know you did a great project. Can you do for us as well? Right. That's what they wanted. When I went there, 70 people organization, $100 million business, big business across Saudi, shipping like hundreds of thousands of tires every month. Only two supply chain people, 3PL and two supply chain people, like ridiculous. And they have 40 salespeople, right? And all of them was doing what? Chasing orders to distributor, then chasing people to have you enter the order, then chasing inventory available or not, then chasing have you shipped it, then chasing have you provided the documentation, chasing. And I'm thinking, that's ridiculous. All of the 80% of that activity you can digitalize, right? But you're so focused on supply chain, I asked them, okay, do you have any on-time delivery metric for your customers? He said, no. Okay, do you have inventory number? Yeah, yeah, we know inventory. I said, oh, what's your days on hand? He said, that. And he said, what is days on hand? Like, okay, what is your inventory turns? He said, I don't know. Like, okay. So they're running $1 million, $100 million business, do not have a basic supply chain metric. So I
Mhm.
said, my friends, you are not a sales business, you are a distributor. You are essentially a supply chain business, right? And what you need to do is to improve supply chain, and you need to work together because the sales organization was so strong. Then the planner have actually stopped planning because he said, whatever I plan, my chief supply chain officer comes in and he said, don't order what you're doing, order 20,000 because I have gotten a discounted agreement with one of the customers, right? And he's gonna place more order and we're gonna give him 20% discount. So planners goes planning goes out of the window here at this point in time, right? Because the sales have so much authority. And the outcome of that was they were carrying so much inventory, they have no idea even how to sell it. Because the sales guy will just keep buying and keep buying. Now, the point I'm making is following. The silos is a problem. I give you actually a worse example. If you go to a big companies like Eaton, Bridgestone, established businesses, what you will see is they have processes in place, but the silos are still there. So one of the best process to eliminate silos is sales and inventory operation, or, S&OP process, sales and operation planning. In USA, they call it sales inventory operation planning or sales and operation planning. So I have a course on SCM Dojo. It's a very highly rated course. You can go and see it because the course talks about how to deploy it. I have all the tools. I have, there's a lot of information you can get from SCM Dojo as well. That's not a problem, or just email me. So one of the most successful tools, and I've done it at a very small plant level to a divisional level of a $700 million business. It works to break down silos.
Great, great indeed. I'd like to turn a bit into the technology side.
Interesting.
Many organizations currently invest heavily in technology.
Yes.
Why do execution problems often persist despite these investments, Professor?
Okay, I can ask you a question, right? A simple question. And then you have to answer that question, and then I'll explain you why I asked and what is the implication. So let's say you got money and you want to deploy technology, as you said, and then it doesn't work. So, in your opinion, you're a consultant yourself. My question is how those businesses create a business case to define the benefit of that technology. How they do that? What do you think?
I think companies should understand mainly the business before trying to invest
Yeah.
in technology. But beforehand, sometimes companies invest in technology, but without knowing what is going on in the process in the business, right?
No, so we can make it even more simpler, right? So you come up with a business case, but what does business case will tell a business? It has to tell something, right? It has to have a measurable outcome. So, in your experience, what kind of measurable outcome businesses look for? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the business should be better. The idea
Yes.
of building the business case is really to improve the business. It's not just
Yeah.
having the best technology in
Yes. Yes.
place.
Okay. That's great. You're right. Now, you said to make business better, but define better. So I say this. Once you create or decide you have to implement a technology and you create a business case, it has to do two things. It has to either improve operational efficiency, that means have to do things better, faster, quicker at lower cost, or it has to improve customer experience. That means they can get
Right.
information digitally, quickly, without talking to people, on time, real time, whatever. So it's improve customer experience, right? So any supply chain technology business case has to do two things.
Hmm.
Ideally, both operational efficiency, which is inside, or customer experience is outside. Okay. If any business case cannot do both, or at least do one, it's okay. Any business case which cannot do neither is a rubbish business case. You should do not buy any technology. Now, the point is, people spend millions and they expect we're going to go in and we're going to buy this technology and we're going to improve your demand planning process and let's buy that. Okay, fine. There's 30 software available. Let's take a simple example of demand planning and forecasting. And they're gonna say, we're gonna improve your forecast by 20 points, and then it will reduce your inventory by, 7 to 8%. Great. You gone ahead and you bought this Connexus, give them 500,000, give $200,000 to a consultant. Beautiful. Have you measured it after 6 months or 7 months? Have you actually really measured that what was said on the business case, which you take in the money, have you delivered that or not? Or if you have not, why not? So the issue is not the investment. The issue is lack of clarity of the business case, lack of clarity of the outcomes of the technology, and lack of clarity of once we're gonna execute this, how we're gonna execute this, and what would be the measurable outcome in KPIs to the business. And I have seen it in big organizations, small organizations. Comes in, consultant goes in, you go through blueprints, you go through go live sessions, you go through the stress. And once you go through the stress, 4 months later, even though you have bought 20 licenses, only two people use this.
Hmm.
And the 20 licenses you bought, they don't give a shit because they're still working on Excel.
Yeah,
Because Excel is
yeah,
free and
I
Excel they
like
know.
this approach. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
So that's what we need to measure.
Okay. And then the other point that I'd like to discuss here, Professor, is how do disconnected KPIs contribute to conflicting priorities across functions such as purchasing, procurement, manufacturing, logistics, and sales? What's your view in this matter?
Exactly. So I have noticed, seen you KPI dashboard, being part of it, you literally go through like 20, 30 KPIs, which is like ridiculous, right? And I've already shared an example where you have none. Either of them are bad. What needs to happen is you need to have five, maybe seven main KPIs, which serve different purpose. It's not conflicting. So for example, you have on-time delivery, which shows customer service. You have inventory, which is working capital. You have supplier on-time delivery to know what they are supplying, right? You have your logistics cost overview, right? You have total return on your capital, and you have total end-to-end cash cycle, right? That means your DSO and DPOs are balancing. If you just do that, that means you are covering all operational stuff. Or also include health and safety because like near miss and your safety is important. So I'll include that as well, right? So I just give you seven KPIs, right? Top of my head. And in those KPIs, you cover almost tactical aspect like on-time delivery to customer inventory. You cover cash to cash cycle, which is more financial and business. You cover people, which is health and safety and culture, right? I mentioned you supply on-time delivery, which measures your supply on-time delivery performance because if they supply on time and life is easy, and that's it. Yeah, you don't need 20 conflicting KPIs who's basically, you know, I like this philosophy of what gets measured get done, right? But if you're just measuring for the sake of measuring, right, and not acting upon it, what's the point? So, for example, I've got this, I bought this Apple Watch so I can measure my sleep and I can run. But guess what? Even though I'm going to gym and measuring my calories, I don't sleep a lot. And it's my watch is telling me you're only sleeping 5 hours and 20 minutes for last month. And I know it's bad, but if I'm not sleeping 7 hours, what's the point of me measuring it? There's no point, right? So I
right?
have to take the measure and put an effort in please 7 hours, and I'm not doing it. And I'm wrong, but it's a very simple example, it's a real example.
Very good, very good. Professor, let's do the following. Let's grab some water. Let's take this water and we'll come back after that. Can
Yes,
we?
yes, let's do that.
What a great conversation we are having here with Professor Dr. Muddassir. Uh, Doctor, one important question I think we have here. What impact does slow decision making have on supply chain responsiveness and the business performance? What's your view on that matter?
So the I think the you mentioned slow decision making, right? Yeah, slow decision making. Okay.
Yeah.
So I call it decision latency, right? So think, get back, and we are both senior people. You're more senior than me. Remember the days when we used to receive POs and information via fax machines. It used to print, and then you have to print it out. Okay, it
Yeah.
takes days or whatever to exchange information, right? And then we used to have this bill of lading and packing list, and I remember when I started my career, we used to get a shipper's bill of lading in post, shipping document, right? Okay. So remember, people used to make decisions on that kind of technology. Yeah. Okay. Young people, Gen Zs will not know that, but you know, 40, anything which is mid 40s and older would know what I'm talking about. But now, think about it. Email, WhatsApp, digital bill of lading, everything is instantaneous, live. In which situation is easier to make decision? Fax machine, post, or now? Right now, because the information is more available. Okay. The point I'm trying to make it following is this. Technology right now is not the showstopper in quick decision making. Technology is there. It's not costing anybody. So the problem is then why slow decision making? Why? Why this is happening? And because anything, especially, people say a startup have a competitive advantage because they can make decisions faster. Yeah, because they have a small team. They don't have a red tape. Now, the issue with the slow decision making is not technology, it's not the information, it's not the analysis. Everything is there. Is the red tape organization have put in place. They call it decision matrix, decision hierarchy, right? You must follow policies and procedure, which I know is important. I work for big corporations, right? You need to have some level of controls, right? That's fine. But those controls cannot be or should not be resistance of decision making. The controls should be designed, or decision gateways should be designed to make decisions quicker, not slower. So what people do is when they design the policies and procedures and decision matrix, they just keep adding people and gateways to actually make things slower, not faster. You should almost think about auto decision making matrix. If this happens, then this, right? If the PO is this, then this should happen, right? It should be a one-click approval. I, st- I still remember. I don't want to name the company and my boss because they might be listening. We used to have this PO. Like if you raise a PO of more than $100,000, it has to go to the director of operations to approve. And that guy never logged into SAP in his life because he think he was a director and he was just too. It was beneath him to log into ERP. That was the guy approach, right? It's like ridiculous, right? And when we used to raise PO, and it was just sitting on his email for him to log in to approve PO. Why? So while it was right thing to do to put a higher authority to approve the $100,000 PO, am not disagreeing with that. That was the right thing to do. But the process, knowing the fact the guy will not log into SAP to approve, was a bad idea. Then the technology should be actually he should receive an email. He just approved the email. Boom, done. Right? And that's the issue. So slow decision making is not because we don't have analysis or information or tools or the digital architecture. Is the people who are designing that are too slow to make decisions.
Great, great, great. Professor, I would like to have some example here. So, can you share a real example where a strong strategy failed because execution capabilities were missing?
Yes, 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 yes. I don't know you're following the case of Nike lately. I mean, I can share my own example, but I'd like to share more global example, right?
Hmm.
So Nike was growing massively, right? There was the biggest footwear in athletic wear people. When they got a new CEO and he came from I think McKinsey or some I think consulting company, and he said we're gonna go digital, we're gonna go direct to customer D2C, and then we're gonna take off the stocks out of the our distributor like Foot Locker and the main retails, and we're gonna go direct to customer. We're gonna make more money, and now internet is there, and we have a great brand, and people are gonna buy it. Great strategy, makes sense. More money, digital consumer, big brand, lovely. Failed miserably because what they do not realize in execution, you can't really go from brick and mortar supply chain, which customers are going to they like to go to walk, they like to try the shoes, they like to get a feeling, and then they have to have experience and then go and buy it, right? They said they're gonna move from this experience to a full digital. So and then they forget about the design of the supply chain as well. So they went to D2C. They did not have the right warehouses. They did not have the right partner. The stocks was late. Customer was not happy, right? So they missed the execution part. But most importantly, what they did not do, they did not do the change management. So before you actually say, "Oh, we gonna move to D2C," you got to change the customer behavior and then the supply chain to go with it, right? And that's where a good strategy could fail. I agree with the strategy, right thing to do, because many big businesses has been very successful. Because for example, right now I am consulting a small business, $20 million business, European business. They're a classic distributor of industrial product like safety shoes, drill machine, high vis jacket, blah blah. Small business, good business, stable business. In they're in Estonia, and they have a market in Latvia, Lithuania. So in those Baltic countries. So I said to him, okay, why don't you go D2C? You should have a shop where your customers can buy. He said, oh, my distributor will get upset. I said, no, they will not get upset. It's just one channel. Even they can place an order, and you can supply to them. So what rather than disrupting the supply chain what we built classically, which is buy from suppliers, stock, ship, what they did was we create a shop and then we slowly market out to people, the end user, like a kiosk, right? If you want a 10 or high-vis jacket, don't place an order to a distributor to us. You just go and click and buy, and we can ship it from the stock, and you will get it in 48 hours. Simple. You can buy any local delivery driver, or you can buy any 3PL services who would do that. And they gone from a zero digital sales to 240,000 euros in 8 months without affecting any of their existing sales,
Hmm.
right? So that was a growth opportunity, and now they're thinking they want to grow this line of business to 2 million in 2 years' time because they think they can, right? So again, good strategic decision to change the model, or I wouldn't call it change, I would call it diversify the business model. They start using digital tool, and in doing so, they acquired new business. But the good decision the guy who did is following. Before he decided to do it, he hired someone like me to make sure the supply chain is ready, the systems is ready, the website is ready, the inventory availability is ready, the user interface and user experience is ready, right? Because his customers will not get upset with him and he can provide good value,
Mm.
right? So this is a good example from a strategy fully executed, end up in a growth for a business.
Great, great, very good. What does effective orchestration across functions look like in a modern supply chain?
Okay, this I don't like this word of or orchestration, right? Do you use the word orchestration?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what does orchestration means? So let's define the word orchestration,
Hmm.
right? It's one of the recent buzzwords. Orchestration is nothing in my head that different part of supply chain or systems and processes, they work in harmony, right? It's almost we talked about earlier, right? This conflicting KPIs and the poor execution, right? And if you can have different levels or different part or different activity of supply chain, if they don't work in a house, so where the concept of orchestration comes in is almost like you've seen in the musical, right? There's a guy who's moving his sticks, and there's a piano players, and there's like violin players, there's guitar players, and everybody singing at the right step at the right time and playing the instruments. So the whole opera or the band is creating a music which sounds beautiful. If one of those instrument people are out of sync, then what's going to happen? Orchestration fails. So for me, orchestration is all about syncing different aspect or different activities of supply chain that the end result look like a beautiful song. But the problem is nobody looks supply chain ever like orchestration. They like to use the word orchestration, but they don't look it. Let me simplify it. There's a concept of supply chain design. It's one of my favorite concepts, right? Okay. People supply, I can even make it even more simpler. What does supply chain design means? Your product either are made to stock or made to order, assembled to order. Okay. All of them would have a different lead time. All of them would have a different service level. All of them would have a different inventory policies. All of them would have a different system settings. Simple is an example. But they all need to work in their own frequency, in their own way. So the end customer experience, who's either ordering made to stock product, assembled to order product, engineered to order product, or made to stock product, will get a same experience, regardless of the different parameters, the different expectation, different lead time, different suppliers, different whatever. So you have to orchestrate that to get the results. And it's called supply chain design in my business knowledge. Okay. But what happened is supply chain leaders comes in, they get a fantastic job, they're paying a lot of money, they got new team, they come in, they can say, oh, we gonna just change the strategy, we're gonna combine the roles, we do not need separate procurement department, and we're gonna move to operational procurement to supply chain people, and you become a commodity manager, and then we're gonna move trade compliance to basically operational excellence function change. Sounds good. But one thing they don't do, they don't look into the supply chain design,
Hmm.
because what happened is supply chain design is almost given to them and they accept it. What I want to challenge supply chain leaders is, if the supply chain design is given to you that you have a X amount of supplier base, X amount of lead time, X amount of warehouses, X amount of stocking policy, X amount of people, X amount of customer contracts, X amount of customers expectation, have you think about it into like, have you mapped it out into a map, right? And then think about it, take a step back and see, okay, can I change anything drastically, right, which can give me a competitive advantage? Change this and then orchestrate the remaining part parameters of supply chain to get a very differentiated and better outcome. So long answer of your question, the point is orchestration alone will not make a difference if you do not understand your supply chain design and have a desire to improve it.
Marvelous, marvelous, great indeed. Professor, one question that I would like to discuss and bring it to our conversation here is how can leaders create alignment between strategic objectives and the operational priorities throughout the organization?
First of all, you use the word leader. The word leader is important here,
Hmm?
right? So what does leader do? What is the job of a leader? First job of a leader is you lead by example. You are the one who's setting up the vision. You are the one who's inspiring, right? You are the one who's showing the concern of people. You are the one who's gonna motivate it, right? If you're just gonna come in and you're just gonna present the slides and delegate to your managers and you're gonna say it will happen, it will not happen. You have to lead by example. So you think, okay, let's everybody should start using AI and then implement 4 hours and use for 4 hours and use agentic AI. Okay. What you are doing as a leader, how you are leading by example in that change. How much do you understand what AI would bring as a change? How you are yourself is actually receptive to the change. Let me give you example, right? And I'll answer your question. So the customer in Middle East, I don't want to name it. So big business, right? About again $200 million business, 40 people, and there's a lot of smart people working for that guy, right? So the one of the middle managers contacted me saying, let's put together a proposal, AI training plan, we want to use AI, let's do it. I put a plan together, I did 7 presentation, right? And that gentleman he just couldn't get it that AI will bring improvements because he was so skeptical about it. He was so skeptical about benefits. Even you tell him that we want to change the MVP, he just wouldn't. He just wouldn't agree. And I'm thinking, I don't get it because this guy is clearly not stupid. He's clearly smart, right? He cannot become a chief supply chain officer, right? If he's just incompetent. So I was not actually getting his resistance at all, right? And I have several rounds. His people was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated, and I have did assessments. I have done current operations assessment, and I have not paid anything. They did not pay me anything, and I prepared a proposal. I done the outcome. I think it was a brilliant proposal, right? Even the team thinks brilliant proposal, but that guy was just not buying. Let me tell now, then what happened was it didn't go through. I happened to create a friendship with the HR manager of that company, right? So one day I happened to be in Dubai and she saw my I think status on WhatsApp or Instagram and she said, "Oh, you got a time to meet?" I was like, "Oh yeah, let's meet." So we met casually on the coffee, right? Okay. And then she explained me why. The reason was in the culture of Middle East, the amount of people who works for you give you more power. So if you see in Middle East, you people are introducing you. Okay. I ask them, okay, please introduce yourself. He will say, I'm in this business for 10 years. I'm a chief supply chain officer. I've got procurement under me, logistics under me, IT under me, finance, or planning under me. Also, SD engineers under me, and I've got 200 people work for me. So the amount of people working for that person shows him the power within the organization. Because if you got only 500 people and 40% people in work in supply chain, that means that leader is very important because he's managing a big community of people, right? And the problem with that guy was he does not want to let go of the power of number of people because my solution was basically driving efficiency. So he doesn't need to have 12 customer service people. He just need 6 customer service people. And he didn't want that to happen, right? So if you go to the really intrinsic or deep down of the leadership here, that you as a leader has to be the first believer of the change you're driving, not because somebody just told you to do so. You have to live and breathe. So once you live and breathe, then you come up with the strategy, then you almost sell that strategy, come up with the execution plan to the people, and then make them accountable and responsible for executing that plan. Yes, but your job as a leader doesn't finish here. You're still accountable, responsible for reviewing it, for supporting it, If the teams need support, any gaps, any roadblocks, you need to help them in eradicating that. Then you can actually, you just can't come up with a PowerPoint slide and give it to people and saying, go do it. It doesn't work like this.
Professor, very good conversation we are having here, indeed. Professor, looking ahead, what capabilities will distinguish the supply chains that consistently execute from those that continue to struggle with execution gaps?
I think the I think we talked about the main elements of that in so far. The only thing I would add is, so everything I said is valid, but I'm going to add one more thing to that answer. What really happens in businesses, you get excited, you want to improve, you want to do digital or AI, blah blah. Let's do a workshop, let's hire a consultant, massive analysis and plan. So imagine a graph. On x-axis, you got time, right? On y-axis, you got effort, right? So what people generally do, they spend too much time in writing strategy, diagnostics, creating analysis, creating, what we have to do. So big circle. Then they come up with an action plan. So action plan got like many tabs, many functions, like 200 action plan. So they spent 3 months in just doing that, right? And then they have a 6 month project. So, for example, the project was 6 months. They spent 3 months only doing this, right? And then they really rush themselves into the last 3 months to execute. You're not going to execute 200 actions in 3 months. You're just gonna fail. And you're gonna fail, and then project gonna say project is failure, and then you get disappointed, and it just never happens again. Or it happens after some time. Bad strategy. So there's a bad execution strategy. So the good execution strategy is following: time, x-axis, y, effort. I would say start from a very controllable scope. So, for example, I say to people when I do S&OP consultancy to people, if you are, for example, big business of like $100 million, and they say, let's deploy S&OP. I said, wait, I'll do the training. I'll come down what is S&OP. I'll train everybody in the organization what S&OP is. I will tell them is the process which balance demand and supply. I will tell them it's a cross-functional process. I will tell them the benefit, both operational, direct and indirect. However, implementation, I will not do it across business because we're gonna fail. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pick a product segment or a product line. For example, if you are a distributor of industrial products, you have some automotive parts, some electrical parts, whatever. We're gonna pick electrical only. We're gonna pick a segment of electrical, then a planner for electrical, product sales guy for electrical, product line for electrical. Make it like a mini team, and we're gonna do it fast. We're gonna prove it that S&OP works in this small segment of the business. Once we prove that in 3 months, then we replicate to other part of the business. So with this example, so what I say to people is spend less time and money and effort in discussing and slightly more in action planning and lot more in execution. The famous philosophy of USA, right? Fail fast, learn fast, move fast.
Great, great. Dr. Muddassir, we are reaching out to the end of this conversation. Indeed, a very good conversation
Thank
here,
you.
which will bring a lot of contribution for our supply chain community. Thank you very much, Dr. Muddassir.
Thank you very much for having me. You have a very good question. Hopefully, your people like your conversation. Thank you for listening to your folks. And as always, Bertaglia said that you have to go like, share, and subscribe. So if you have any questions, you can connect me on LinkedIn. Just search Dr. Muddassir Ahmed, and my handle on social media, both Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn is at Muddassirism. So Muddairism, and happy to contact and happy to answer. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Professor. May the force be with you.
Thank you very much. And good luck to Brazil in the World Cup.
Thank you.